Incredible turn of events. General reveals hidden Pentagon badge, ending 30 minutes of discrimination at Independence Day parade. The scent of sizzling food trucks mingled with the sound of laughter as Jake hustled through the bustling streets of their small Midwestern town. Eyes on the sky's canvas painted with strokes of red, white, and blue. Independence Day and the annual parade was usually a gleam of hope, but this year, an unsettling shadow loomed over him. After losing his factory job, making ends meet had been a clumsy dance of multiple jobs, clocking out from one low-wage gig just to rush to another. Each dollar earned barely kept food on the table for him and his bright-eyed son, Timmy. "Dad, look, they're setting up the floats." Timmy's enthusiasm pierced through Jake's worries. He smiled, ruffling Timmy's hair, reminding himself of why they had to keep going. Instilling values of resilience was more crucial now than ever, especially with Timmy dreaming of military service. It could be their ticket to a brighter future. But as they found their spot on the sidewalk, their moment of joy was cut short. The local war veterans group, with their stern faces and gruff attitudes, decided Timmy and Jake were unworthy to march in the parade. Their eyes narrowed. Whispering about the misinterpretation of sacrifice, they saw only a struggling father with a son instead of warriors worthy of the red, white, and blue. "Dad, why can't we march?" Timmy's voice wavered, confusion shadowing his innocent face. Jake's heart sank. How could he explain? How could he teach him pride and honor when they were stacked against a wall, judged by their circumstances? Frustration simmered. Jake approached the group, his voice steady yet trembling. "We may not wear uniforms or medals, but I'll show my son what it means to be proud of who you are," he declared, voice echoing against the backdrop of festive cheers. The crowd hushed, surprised by his boldness. What if they couldn't see the worth in what he fought for? Days turned into heavy weeks, each filled with misunderstanding and whispered gossip. Tensions grew, and relationships in town already stretched thin started to fray. He contemplated backing out of everything, but the spirit flared. Giving up on Timmy's dream felt like betrayal. Then, the unexpected happened. As the parade commenced, a figure emerged from the crowd, a retired general. The atmosphere shifted. He carried a weight of history, courage etched into his weathered face. He called for silence and unveiled a hidden Pentagon badge, revealing it had belonged to Jake's late father. "This man fought for his country," the general proclaimed, his voice rich with respect. "He tore through adversity much like many here today. Don't let your struggles define your worth." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd, sentiments of admiration washing over them as pride bleeds back into the hearts of a community that had lost sight of their shared humanity. With tears prickling at the corners of his eyes, Jake felt the tidal wave of emotions crash over him. He was no longer just a father struggling among many. He was a man who would reclaim balance. The badge became a beacon, illuminating what it truly meant to belong. Honor didn't solely reside in medals but in the strength of character. The will to rise. As the last fireworks lit up the night sky, Jake stood before a town finally understanding the depth of sacrifice and the prejudice that clouded their judgment. The question lingered in the air: could this moment heal broken bonds and unite them as one? And as they looked to him for leadership, Jake felt the weight of a hopeful future just beyond the horizon, realizing his journey was only just beginning. The fireworks faded, leaving a tapestry of sparks scattered across the night sky. The vibrant bursts had painted cheers and applause, but now there was a hushed silence settling over the crowd. Jake stood in the fading light, holding his son's hand, a mix of hope and anxiety swirling within him. It was as if time had stilled, all eyes now on him, waiting for something more. "Dad, did you really feel like a soldier, like Grandpa?" Timmy whispered, his wide eyes gleaming with newfound admiration. Jake knelt down, the weight of his son's question pressing against his chest. "I think we all have battles to fight, buddy," he replied, his voice catching. "It's about how we stand up, not just about wearing a uniform." Timmy nodded, soaking in those words, yet Jake could sense the heaviness in his heart, a fracture that still needed mending. As the crowd began to disperse, individuals approached him one by one, some clapping him on the back, others apologizing for their previous judgments. "You showed us," an elderly veteran said, his voice trembling slightly. You reminded us it ain't just the soldiers but the families behind them that serve. Your father would be proud. Jake felt a swell of warmth, but underneath that, a knot of concern lingered. Could this moment truly shift perceptions? Could they stay united beyond the parade? These questions haunted him as he hugged Timmy tightly. Days passed, woven together with chatter of the parade. The sun rose each morning to news reports, social media buzz, and discussions filling local diners. Jake found himself standing at a fork in the road. Would he step into the light and take on the role of a community leader, or retreat back into the shadows of obscurity? Each choice seemed tied to the promise he made to Timmy. One evening, while washing dishes, Jake's phone buzzed with a message from the general. Let us meet. I want to talk about a project that could help the community heal. This was unexpected. The general had become a symbol of hope for many, a bridge over troubled waters, and now he wanted Jake's input. Jake's mind raced. What could he want from me? Doubts flooded him, but the thought of helping people, of fostering connection, stirred a sense of purpose deep within. Maybe this is it, he whispered to himself. Maybe this is how we can change hearts. He met with the general the next day, the hum of busy streets and the distant sound of laughter echoing in the background. They sat at a local cafe, the air thick with possibility. The general spoke passionately about a community project, a veterans and families support program, aiming to integrate civilian experiences with military sacrifices. Let us create something that fosters understanding, that brings families and veterans together, the general suggested, eyes gleaming with ambition. You'll be the voice of this, Jake. You experienced the judgment, the struggle. People need to hear that. The gravity of the moment hit Jake hard. He felt the calling, but the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. I'm just a guy who's trying to survive, he replied, a tinge of fear creeping into his voice. But you fought back when you were cast aside. That takes courage, the general countered. Imagine what we could do to help others tell their stories, to build pride and unity. Jake nodded, feeling the pulse of something bigger vibrating through him. Let me think about it, he finally said, his heart racing as they parted ways that night. Staring at the stars with Timmy beside him, he pondered the general's words. Could he really lead others? What if he failed? In the depths of night, they sat quietly, stars overhead shining bright like the path ahead uncertain, yet radiant with possibility. Just then, Timmy turned to him, confused yet hopeful. Dad, are we going to be part of something big, like heroes? Jake smiled, feeling the spark of adventure ignite within him yet again. We might just be, son. But as he looked away, he wondered if he had what it took to take that leap into the unknown. Suddenly, a soft voice broke the silence. But what if they don't want to listen? It was a fear that gnawed at him, a doubt he knew he would have to confront. His journey was far from over, and the real battle was just beginning. Would he step into the role meant for him, or would he play it safe? Answers loomed over him like stars waiting to fall. The next morning dawned bright and clear, yet Jake felt a weight resting squarely on his shoulders. As he stared out the window of their modest home, thoughts of the general's proposal swirled in his mind. Voices from the parade echoed, reminding him of connection and unity, yet fears of failure coiled in his gut. Dad! Timmy's voice cut through the haze of his thoughts. He raced into the kitchen, face flushed with excitement. Can we go to the park today? Jake turned, feeling the softness of a smile fight against the tension brewing inside him. Sure, buddy. A little fresh air would do us good. As they walked, the sun beamed down on them, beating back the doubts little by little. Timmy darted ahead, kicking a soccer ball and laughing, a sound that warmed Jake's heart. Remember to stay close, he called out, laughter spilling across the distance. The park was alive with families, a pulse of life that felt both calming and chaotic. After setting up a small picnic, Jake watched Timmy run around with other kids. He observed parents chatting, sharing stories, and lived moments that reminded him of his own childhood, a time when life felt simple and filled with possibilities. But beneath the surface, his mind wandered back to the conversation with the general. What kind of stories could he help share? Who would listen? Just as he pushed those thoughts aside, he caught a glimpse of a familiar face across the park. It was Mark, one of the neighbors who had judged him harshly after the parade. Jake's breath hitched. Would Mark even acknowledge him now? The moment stretched awkwardly. Jake shifted on the blanket, heart racing. But Timmy, always the brave one, stood up and ran over to Mark. "Hi!" Timmy shouted, innocence shining through. "Wanna play soccer with us?" To Jake's surprise, Mark smiled. "Sure thing, little buddy." The tension in Jake's chest loosened just a fraction as he watched the two of them kicking the ball back and forth. "Hey, Jake," Mark called as they took a break. "I see you have Timmy out here enjoying the sunshine." "Good for you." Jake hesitated, his instinct being to respond cautiously. "Yeah, trying to make the most of our day. We've had a lot going on lately." He urged himself to remain open, to not retreat back to the shadows. "About that," Mark continued, rubbing the back of his neck. "I want to apologize. I didn't really understand what you and all the families go through. Seeing you at the parade opened my eyes." Jake felt a rush of warmth. Maybe this was a start. "Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that." He took a breath, feeling a flicker of bravery. "I was thinking about helping create a community project, something to support vets and their families. Maybe we could work together on something like that?" Mark's eyes widened with interest. "Count me in, man. I'd like to help." Jake's heart surged. The start he needed, igniting hope within him. They chatted, two neighbors bridging a gap that felt once insurmountable. As the sun dipped low in the sky, Jake realized the day had shifted something deep within him, a tangible connection sparking among them. Timmy ran over, breathless and glowing. "Dad, did you see us? We were great." Jake nodded and hugged Timmy tightly. "You were amazing, champ." But even as joy coursed through him, a flicker of doubt lingered in the back of his mind. What if not everyone was like Mark? What if this was just a moment, soon forgotten? They packed up, filled with laughter and stories shared. But as they turned to leave the park, Jake paused. He glanced back and saw Mark waving them off, a small gesture that held so much weight. Can we really make this happen? He wondered softly. That night, after tucking Timmy in, Jake sat alone, the darkness wrapping around him like a blanket. What if he reached out only to be met with resistance? Questions spiraled, and courage felt like a distant star again. But with each breath, Jake could feel the spark of determination grow. "I have to try." The next morning, with the strength of his son's unwavering belief in him, he resolved to take the leap. As he gathered his thoughts for the day ahead, a sudden knock at the door turned his world upside down. It was unexpected, an official-looking envelope in hand. "Jake Barrett?" A voice called from the other side. Jake's heart raced. "Yes." The doorway opened, revealing a stern-faced man in uniform. "We need to talk about your involvement with the community project. It's more important than you realize." What was waiting on the other side? Jake's pulse quickened as uncertainty washed over him. Would this be the moment that defined him? Jake barely had time to process the man's presence when he stepped inside, the air suddenly heavy with a sense of impending gravity. The man, sharp in his dark uniform, closed the door behind him with a purpose that sent a chill through Jake. "Please sit," the man said, gesturing toward the worn couch in the living room. His tone was firm, yet something about it hinted at urgency and importance. Jake complied, heart thudding loudly in his chest. Can I ask who you are?" "I'm Lieutenant Colonel Adams," he said, nodding slightly. "I'm here because of your conversation with General Thompson. He believes you have a crucial role in this community initiative." "Crucial?" Jake echoed, excitement mingling with anxiety. "I'm just a guy trying to make a difference. I didn't think it was that important." "Trust me, it is," Adams replied, leaning forward. "The project you proposed caught the General's attention for a reason. We need people like you who can bridge the gap between veterans and their communities." Jake's breath hitched. What exactly did General Thompson say? "That you have a unique perspective on the struggles veterans face. He believes founded connections can spark larger change." He wants you to lead the charge in the community. Feeling a swell of disbelief, Jake searched for the right words. Lead? That sounds huge. I've barely figured out how to get started. It's supposed to be huge, Adams informed him. That's the point. You have the enthusiasm, and now you'll have the backing of the military to help. People will listen, Jake. They'll follow your lead. Jake's mind was racing, visions of his community flooding in families, veterans, their struggles and their hopes. But could he really do this? I just don't want to fail. What if I'm not good enough? The words slipped out before he could rein them in. Their essay saying in the military, Adams replied. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Even small steps matter, and they matter more when taken together. Jake nodded, absorbing the weight of those words. What do I have to do? Adams pulled out an official document from his briefcase. Here's the outline of support we can offer: resources, funding, connections to other initiatives. But we need you to be the figurehead. Are you willing to take this leap? Jake glanced around his living room, transformed by the prospect of change. Timmy's laughter still echoed in his mind. The innocent dream of a better community for everyone. He felt a fire igniting within him. Yes, he said firmly. I want to do this. Good. Their SA meeting at the community center this Saturday. We'll introduce you to other veterans and coordinators. You'll get the chance to share your ideas and gather support. What if they don't want to listen? Jake asked, a flicker of nagging doubt creeping back. Trust in your voice. You've already made an impact with Mark. This is just the beginning. As Adams stood to leave, Jake felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration running through him. Where do we go from here? Adams paused, meeting Jake's gaze. Now, it's about taking the first step, actualizing your plans. I have a good feeling about this, but only you can shape it. With the front door closing, Jake let the silence settle over him. Each tick of the clock felt amplified, each second stretching into an eternity. Could he really pull this off? As he stood there, wrestling with uncertainty and newfound determination, a small voice broke through the thickening air. Timmy appeared in the doorway, rubbing his sleepy eyes. Dad, why are you looking so serious? Jake knelt down, gathering his son into a hug. I think I'm about to start a big adventure. Champ. What kind of adventure? Timmy asked, the corners of his mouth turning up in a smile that sparked something bright in Jake's heart. I'm not sure yet, Jake replied honestly, but it's going to be important. For all of us. With that, as if the universe sighed in collective anticipation, a new chapter beckoned on the horizon, filled with potential and the promise of unity. But deep inside, Jake knew this journey would come with trials of its own. And as he looked intently into Timmy's curious eyes, he could only wonder what challenges lay ahead, challenges that would push him to become the leader he dreamt of being. Could he find a way to keep both his hopes and fears in balance? Jake woke up early that Saturday, the sun just creeping over the horizon. He could hear the faint chirping of birds outside, a gentle reminder that the world kept moving. His heart raced with anticipation. Today wasn't just another Saturday. It was the day he would share his vision, his dream for a community that embraced its veterans. Timmy was already awake, bouncing around their small kitchen with the same energy that Jake had once poured into his own soldier days. Are we having pancakes? Timmy asked hopefully, his bright eyes sparkling with curiosity. Of course. Extra syrup, right? Jake laughed, trying to hide his nerves. He flipped the pancakes in the skillet, letting the scent fill the room as he glanced at the wall where a small command board hung, featuring community events and school schedules. That command board had seen better days, just like his dream of making a difference had. As the pancakes cooked, Jake stole a moment to gather his thoughts. What if they didn't embrace his ideas? What if they turned their backs? But then he remembered Colonel Adams' words. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. With a resolve stronger than he felt, Jake plated the food, and they enjoyed their breakfast together. Laughter filled the kitchen, Timmy's jokes pulling Jake from the spirals of doubt that threatened to pull him under. Even amidst his apprehension, there was something beautiful about these moments. They were ordinary yet miraculous. Within the hour, they piled into the car, Timmy buzzing about how excited he was to meet other kids at the center. Jake's heart thudded in time with the ticking clock, his palms slightly sweaty on the steering wheel. The community center loomed ahead, bright and welcoming. It felt like the gateway to his new adventure as they parked. Jake's stomach twisted with nerves. Timmy bounced out of the car, eyes wide. "Dad, look, there are so many people already." Jake stepped out, taking in the crowd. Veterans in caps, families with kids, and community members gathered in groups, talking and laughing. Jake's apprehension momentarily faltered, replaced by a sense of belonging. He felt a surge of energy. This was it. He could feel it in every fiber of his being. "Let us go, champ," Jake encouraged, leading the way into the bustling environment. As they entered the main hall, he was greeted by the warm handshakes and kind smiles of fellow veterans and partners, their encouragement evident in their eyes. A small, gray-haired woman approached, her eyes sparkling. "You must be Jake. We've heard wonderful things about you. Thank you for stepping up." Jake managed to smile, the warmth of her words melting some of his worries. He sat up near the front where a small podium stood, a backdrop of community photos bright behind him. As he looked at it, he imagined a brighter future. When it was time to speak, his heart raced again. He took a deep breath and stepped up to the mic, locking eyes with Timmy, who beamed with pride. "Hey everyone, thank you for being here today." He started sharing his story, his passion, the struggles of veterans, how he believed they could build bridges. Words flowed, each shared story pulling him deeper into the mission. The room was alive, folks nodding, whispering in agreement, and even clapping at key points. For the first time, Jake felt like he was part of something bigger. With each passing minute, it felt more like home. But just as he began to define what the community initiative would entail, tension flickered across the room. Someone in the back stood up. "But what if you fail?" The voice boomed. It pierced through their supportive atmosphere, every eye turning toward Jake. His heart dropped, dread pooling in his gut. What if he did fail? As Jake prepared to respond, he caught sight of Colonel Adams standing in the doorway, his presence commanding respect. Just then, he stepped forward, his gaze unwavering. "Every great leader faces doubt. Jake is here to fight for this community, and I believe in him. We all should." With Adam's backing, Jake felt renewed strength surge through him. Maybe the doubts in his heart were normal. Maybe they made the victory even sweeter. What he said, Jake responded, a new light igniting within him. "Let us build this together." Could hope really triumph over fear? As the discussion picked up momentum again, Jake glanced at Timmy, who was grinning ear to ear, and knew that he was ready to face whatever came next. But what exactly would that be? With a surge of confidence, Jake continued where the doubt had momentarily stalled him. He drew in a deep breath and began talking about his vision for inclusivity and connection within the community. Each word felt like a pebble tossed into water, creating ripples of inspiration among the crowd. "Together, we can ensure that our veterans aren't just seen, but truly valued." His passion was palpable, undeterred by the earlier interruption. Timmy continued to sit front and center, eyes glued to his dad, nudging a little boy next to him, whispering excitedly about his dad. Jake felt the warmth of his son's pride wash over him, fueling his desire to make this work. The words flowed more freely now, and Jake could feel a shift around him. Slowly, hands began to rise. Questions, ideas, and suggestions were surfacing from all corners of the room. It was an invitation to collaborate, to share hopes and fears. Jake eagerly responded, encouraging everyone to engage, to build something meaningful together. What if we host a monthly veterans meetup? A space where stories and resources are shared? Or maybe a community project that bridges the gap between our veterans and the youth of this town. As he spoke, he noticed an elderly man seated in the corner, wearing a tattered military jacket. The man's brow furrowed in thought, and Jake's voice softened in recognition of the weight of his years. "Sir, do you have any thoughts?" The man looked up, his voice gravelly but steady. "When I returned home, I felt like a ghost in my own town. But perhaps this could create a place where returning veterans aren't ghosts, but family. A wave of approval washed over the crowd, affirming Jake's instincts. He could feel hands gripping the edges of seats, hearts open. A woman spoke up next, a young mother holding her daughter. "My husband is currently serving. I worry for him daily and feel disconnected from our community. This could help all of us feel united." Jake smiled wide, the connection palpable. That's exactly it. It's not just veterans, this is for every family impacted by service. "We'll make sure your husband feels valued and remembered." Every exchange felt electric. Ideas sparked, connections formed, and laughter echoed through the hall. Jake could sense the fear melting, replaced by hope, a true testament to the strength of community. But just as excitement built, another voice broke in. "Jake, what about those of us who have been turned away before? What if we don't feel welcomed?" A young woman, arms crossed defiantly, stood strong as the crowd fell silent. Her vulnerability struck a chord. Jake hesitated, a surge of empathy flooding over him. "I get that it's hard to open up when the doors have been shut before. But today, let us change that narrative. This is yours as much as it is mine. We can make space for everyone to belong." Colonel Adams looked proud from the back. Jake now felt a collective determination in the air, as hands gripped tighter around one another, ready to rise as the room buzzed with conversation and planning. Jake caught a glimpse of Timmy bouncing excitedly, eyes shimmering with hope. His heart swelled as ideas morphed into tangible plans, and the initial tension turned into excitement, paving the way for change. But then, out of the crowd, another voice spoke up. "And what happens if we try, and it still doesn't work? Will we have the courage to keep going?" An unsettling hush fell as the question hung in the air. Jake froze, his smile faltering, the hope he had built suddenly feeling fragile. Would they truly have the resilience to face setbacks? Could they navigate the storms ahead and still find light? As the tension from that question echoed, Jake met the gaze of his son, who simply nodded as if to say, "You can do this. This means so much." Jake closed his eyes for a moment, gathering strength. "Let us find out together," he answered softly, but firmly. "Let us promise to uplift one another no matter what." Would they be able to stand strong amidst the uncertainties that lay ahead? Jake didn't have all the answers yet, but he knew one thing for certain. They were ready to forge ahead, and he couldn't wait to see where it would take them. The crowd was still, their eyes fixed on Jake, waiting for something more. The weight of anticipation made the air feel thick, alive with possibility. He sensed the collective breath they were holding, a mixture of hope and doubt. As he looked around, he saw nods from earlier supporters and speculative glances from those less sure. "Listen," Jake began again, his voice steadier this time. "Challenges are part of any journey. We're bound to stumble now and then. But if we stand together, lift each other up, we'll find strength in our unity." He noticed a flicker of uncertainty in the young woman's eyes, a sliver of doubt fighting against her desire to believe. From the back, Colonel Adams stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. "I've been in battles that tested my very core. Some days it felt like my strength was sapped, but it was the comrades beside me that kept me going." His voice was deep, rough as gravel yet resolute. "As a community, we can be that for one another. We can be the support that so many need." The elderly veteran in the corner nodded vigorously, his jacket crinkling with reverberating zeal. "Absolutely. It's not just about your speech, Jake. You've ignited sparks within us. Let us discuss how to turn those sparks into flames." Jake felt the energy in the room transform. Ideas bounced from one person to another like a game of catch. Someone suggested a mural honoring lost veterans. Another delegated tasks for organizing meetups. Even the young woman, held tight in the grasp of her hesitation earlier, started sketching plans on a nearby notepad. Timmy watched eagerly, his small hands clapping in rhythm with the rising excitement. "Look, Dad, everyone's working together. Can we help paint the mural?" Jake glanced at his son, who was radiating joy, and nodded. "Of course, you'll help lead that effort." The chatter rose to a hum, Laughter erupted, and Jake could feel the warmth of connection pulsing through the room. But the reality of potential setbacks still loomed. He sensed the vulnerability. It was uncomfortable, yet necessary. He had to speak it into existence. "Let us be real," he said, raising his hands calmly for a moment, the murmurs quieting down. "There will be stumbles. Some may not show up. Some may not feel welcomed. But we have to communicate. Transparency will be our anchor. If anyone feels pushed away or unheard, we need to know." A hand shot up in protest. "How do we ensure that everyone's voice matters then? What's stopping someone from shutting us down again?" Jake took a deep breath, feeling the burn of passion radiate through him. "That SY will create a core committee, a group made up of veterans, family members, and community leaders. This will be a space where everyone can share their perspectives safely." He glanced at Colonel Adams again, who nodded in agreement. "We're not afraid of conflict. We're here to listen and learn from each other. This is how change happens." Just as excitement began to fill the air once more, a loud crash echoed from the side door. The startled crowd turned in unison. A bearded man stumbled in, his eyes wide with urgency. "Someone's here to see you. Jake, you need to come quickly." Jake felt his heart race. What now? Was it another setback? Or could it be something that would change everything? As the room buzzed with questions and murmurs again, he met Timmy's eyes filled with concern and curiosity. "Stay here, buddy. I'll be back." As he stepped outside, Jake felt the weight of the room's hope resting on his shoulders. What awaited him could shift everything they had just built. The door swung shut behind him, and he braced himself for whatever came next. What had happened this time that felt so urgent? Was it a cause for celebration or a storm front moving in? Jake stepped out into the cool evening air, the sounds of the bustling crowd inside fading behind him. The bearded man stood there, a mixture of excitement and fear written all over his face. "This way, Jake," he urged, leading him down the gravel pathway that wound around the side of the community center. "What's going on?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "You'll see." The man's urgency was palpable as they turned a corner. A group of people had gathered outside the entrance, their faces a blend of curiosity and concern. Jake pushed through, his heart pounding in anticipation. At the center of the gathering was a man in military uniform, his gold insignia gleaming under the street lamp. The sight sent a shiver down Jake's spine. He recognized the uniform. "General Tomlinson?" Jake's voice came out a little shaky. What could an esteemed general want from him? "Jake," the general said, extending a hand. "We need to talk. In private." Jake swallowed hard. The community buzz wrapped around him, but all he could focus on was the man before him. The general looked serious, yet there was a spark of something in his eyes. "It's important." With a quick glance back at Timmy, who was still inside, Jake nodded, following the general away from the crowd. They moved to a quieter spot behind the building, where the hum of excitement faded into whispers of the cool evening breeze. "What brings you here?" Jake asked, his curiosity mixing with anxiety. The general took a deep breath, clearly weighing his words. "I've heard about your efforts in the community. What you're trying to build here, it matters more than you realize." Jake blinked. Did this man really care? "Thank you, sir. We're just trying to unite everyone, to create a better future. I understand, and I want to help." The general paused, the weight of his emotions suddenly visible. "But help comes with complications." Jake's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" General Tomlinson fished inside his uniform pocket and produced a small, ornate badge. Holding it up, he continued, "This is a Pentagon badge, and it allows me to share resources that most communities don't have access to: funding, outreach programs." But he hesitated. "There are strings attached." "Strings?" Jake echoed, raising an eyebrow. "Like what?" "Political strings." The general looked around to ensure no one else could overhear. "There are people who want to see this project succeed. They thrive on division, not unity. And the closer you get to this badge, the more attention it draws." A knot tightened in Jake's stomach. He thought of the young woman who had been hesitant earlier, the elderly veteran's fervent nods, and Timmy's bright, eager face. "So you're saying it could be dangerous?" "Exactly," the general replied, his tone firm but softening as he continued. "But with risks come rewards. You have a unique opportunity to make a genuine difference. Are you in?" Jake's mind raced. The weight of the decision loomed large. Could he really risk everything they built for a chance at change? "I'm going to need time to think about it," he murmured, his heart heavy, anticipating both the possibilities and the threats that lay ahead. "Just know," the general said, slipping the badge back into his pocket, "the offer stands. The world could use a little courage right now." As the general turned to leave, Jake stood still, the evening air now thick with a strange tension. Could he really push forward? Should he be willing to risk it all? One question lingered in his mind. When faced with the chance for change, how far would he be willing to go to protect his community? Jake stood there, lost in thought as the glow of the street lamp cast soft shadows around him. The general's words echoed in his head, each syllable heavy with significance. The world could use a little courage right now. But how could he summon courage when the stakes felt impossibly high? Timmy's laughter floated through the community center's open doors, an innocent reminder of why Jake started this journey in the first place. The thought of him being involved in something dangerous sent a wave of nausea crashing over him. He had promised to protect this place, not lead it into a storm. Back inside, he spotted familiar faces mingling near the snack table. There was Sarah, the schoolteacher who always encouraged her students to speak their minds, and Mr. Johnson, a Vietnam veteran with stories that inspired resilience. They had all come together for this community project, a beacon of hope in a world that often overlooked them. But could hope withstand danger? "Jake?" A voice broke through his reverie. It was Sarah, her brow furrowed in concern as she approached him. "You look pale. Is everything okay?" He forced a smile, but it felt like a mask. "Yeah, just talk to the general. He wants to support us, but there are complications." "What kind of complications?" She crossed her arms, her expression now serious. "The kind that could put us under a spotlight. The badge, the funding comes with a lot of eyes watching us." Jake struggled to find the right words, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "He warned me that not everyone will want this project to succeed." Sarah stared at him, her gaze unwavering. "We knew that from the start, didn't we? People are afraid of change." Jake let out a shaky breath. "But this is different. What if it puts you all in danger? What if I'm not ready for this?" "Ready or not, this community needs you." "We need you," she insisted, her voice steady and strong. "We've already taken the first step. We can't back down now. We're in this together, right?" The warmth in her words anchored him. She was right, he wasn't alone. This wasn't just his fight. It belonged to everyone who believed in change. "You're right," he finally responded, his voice firmer. "We have to move forward, but we need to do it carefully. I can't promise everything will be safe, but I can promise that I'll fight for all our futures." Sarah smiled, and for a moment the tension slipped away. "Then let us bring this to the group. They deserve to know what's happening." As they moved toward the center of the room, Jake felt a rush of determination. He could do this. Together, they could face whatever came their way. "Hey, everyone," Jake called out, his heart pounding with each word. "Can I have your attention for a moment?" The chatter faded, eyes turning toward him. Faces filled with curiosity and concern awaited his message. "I just spoke with General Tomlinson, and he has a proposal that could change everything for our community." As he laid it all out, the opportunities, the risks, Jake saw a wave of emotions wash over the room. Excitement, fear, hope. The air crackled with tension as he spoke, and he could see people processing the implications of his words. He finished, looking at their eager faces, hoping they would be as motivated as he felt. "So, what do you all think?" The silence that followed was deafening. Just as a hand raised in the back before he could see who it was, a loud crash echoed from outside. The sound sent shivers down Jake's spine. What now? As he turned to look, a sense of dread washed over him. Was this just the beginning of trouble? What could disrupt the progress they had fought so hard to build? The night was just beginning to unfold, and Jake felt the thrill of uncertainty surge within him. The crash outside jolted everyone into a tense silence. Jake's heart raced as he exchanged worried glances with Sarah and the others. "Stay here," he instructed, moving instinctively toward the door. Urgency propelled him outside, where onlookers gathered around a toppled table and a few scattered chairs, their lively chatter replaced by whispers of fear. He pushed through the crowd and stopped short. A group of men, some in military gear, others just onlookers, were arguing loudly. "Get your hands off him," a familiar voice cut through the chaos. "General Tomlinson." The general stood firm, but the tension in his stance hinted at the brewing storm behind his calm exterior. Jake pushed closer, breaking into the circle. "What's going on?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. One of the soldiers pointed an accusatory finger at a frustrated neighbor, Mark, who looked angry but determined. "This guy's running his mouth about you, Jake. He's saying you're in over your head, that you can't be trusted to lead our community." "Whoa, that's not the way to resolve this," Jake interjected, feeling the heat prick at his skin. "We've worked hard to come together, haven't we?" Mark stepped forward, hands raised defensively. "I didn't mean to stir up trouble," he said, voice wavering slightly. "I just don't want too much attention drawn to this place if we're not ready. I'm proud of this community. I don't want it tarnished." Jake felt the weight of doubt creeping back. "I get that, but we're all in this together. If we let fear of change dictate our actions, we'll never grow." Above the murmur, General Tomlinson's strong voice cut through. "Fear is a part of change, but so is unity and trust. Jake represents the spirit of this project, a chance for all of us to show our true colors." The crowd quieted, tension easing as they considered this truth. "Let us work together, not against each other," Jake urged, stepping closer to Mark. "We all have the same goal. We want a better future." Mark met Jake's gaze, a glimmer of understanding dawning in his eyes. "I just want to see this succeed without fallout." "We all do," Jake replied, reaching out hesitantly. Mark hesitated but then extended his hand, an unspoken pact of cooperation forming between them. The collective breath of the crowd seemed to release. "Okay, we'll move forward but as one," Mark said, his voice steadier now, echoing what Jake had hoped for. Just as Jake felt the weight on his chest lift momentarily, someone else called out, a voice tinged with concern. "But if we're moving forward, what do we do if things get tough?" Jake paused, heart racing again, wondering what would come next. How could they navigate the hurdles ahead? "We create a plan, a support system where we can voice our concerns, where we can lean on each other. One misstep doesn't define our journey. It's how we respond to it together that matters." General Tomlinson nodded, smiling as the crowd began to relax more. "Exactly. That's the courage we need, showing up for the hard conversations and lifting each other up." The murmurs grew louder, agreements and nods rippling through the crowd. A sense of shared purpose blossomed, and the negative energy began to dissipate. Even the young woman who had earlier voiced doubts now stepped forward. "I want to help shape the committee to ensure the plan includes everyone." "Yes." Jake felt his heart swell, eyes glimmering as people rallied together, ideas forming like sparks igniting a fire. "This is how we do it. Together." Timmy's small voice rang out, his wide eyes shining. "Can I help too, Dad?" Jake knelt and pulled him close, feeling the warmth of promised unity enveloping him. "Absolutely, buddy." The crowd started to chat energetically again, plans blossoming like flowers in spring. Jake pulsed with determination, feeling the momentum shift in their favor. Each resolved face surrounding him represented shared dreams and renewed hope. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue over them. Tomorrow would still bring challenges, that was certain, but standing here now, with friends rallying together for a common cause, he believed they could withstand whatever storms approached. As the crowd began to disperse, waves of camaraderie washed over him, a tangible growth of community spirit twirling in the air, leaving him filled with hope for the future. They were not just participants in a project. They were forming the foundation for a legacy of unity. Jake turned to Timmy, who beamed with excitement. "Today was amazing, right?" "Yeah, Dad. We're like heroes." Timmy squealed, his enthusiasm infectious. "Don't you ever forget that," Jake replied softly, holding tightly to his son's hand. They walked away, hearts entwined with vision, and Jake realized the transformation had begun not just for him, but for everyone, lighting the path to a brighter tomorrow. The crowd had rallied, proved their mettle, and stood together in defiance of fear, ready to create change. And as they made their way home under the dimming sky, Jake knew that with courage, anything was possible. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to never miss an exclusive journey like this one. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and keep us thriving. Comment how you felt about this inspiring conclusion, and share instantly this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to uplift your community.